Welcome to this edition of the Big Ideas in Philanthropy podcast. Earlier this year, Advancement Resources conducted a survey with a selection of our top clients, asking them specifically what aspects of working on the very largest transformational level gifts were the most intimidating or daunting for them. In this episode, Advancement Resources President Mauria Brough discusses some of those results with Scott Arthur, Vice Chancellor for Advancement at the University of Colorado Anschutz Medical Campus, and Jim Hodge. Jim has 43 years of experience in philanthropy, inspiring remarkable gifts, and with the last 13, he spent working with Scott as Chief Strategist. Together, they have pioneered innovative ways of approaching transformational giving and engaging with benefactors. So we wanted to get their insights on these survey results and share that with you. Final note before we kick off, our podcast is still new and growing. If you get value from this, please do like and subscribe, or leave a comment or a review of the show. And please do, share with other people. Let your networks know that this podcast is out there.
So the first top concern is fear of mishandling a potentially organization-altering opportunity. And 67% of our respondents rated that as daunting. So first of all, I think you've had some experience with that. And so what advice do you have for managing that fear?
Yeah, it's great to be with Advancement Resources. You guys do amazing work. And our own fear and anxiety limits what's possible for our benefactors and our institutions and ourselves. And so I was very lucky that I had someone like Jim Hodge join our team when I just started here. And I think that Jim, and I'd like you to speak to this, Jim, I think you spent a lot of time one-on-one with development officers. And you would ask them, what's the fear? I think you did that more than any training. It was you really going through their own fears. Can you speak to that?
Sure. And I think that is a directed to your survey, and your answer is the 67% think it's, wow, what if I screw up this vital gift for your organization? Oftentimes, as Scott has said, we set our own limits, our own comfort levels of where we feel good relative to the percentage of possibility of getting a gift, if that makes sense. We set the ceilings, maybe they're glass, I don't know what the ceiling is, and it reduces our anxiety. Instead of really focusing on what is the idea that can really move the needle in any part of your organization. And by focusing on an idea, it's not on the ego or the individual development officer, it's about an idea. And we say that to deans and presidents when we're with them. Just focus on an idea that is compelling, that people, benefactors, donors want to be a part of. And we ask, where's the fear? And it's usually there. If I go ahead and ask for this significant gift, there's a chance it will happen, and it'll be very public in your organization.
People know that you're having these conversations, but what Hodge has done with our team that has really been transformational is to his point, you've got to show the idea and the vision. And they may say, are you asking me for $32.3 million? And to which you say, nothing would please us more. But
that'd be great.
That'd be great. But I think you've said this, it is our moral obligation to cast the vision and share what the philanthropic opportunity is. Now we let that benefactor decide where they want to play. Where they can't play,
where it fits
with their value. So it might be the whole pie. It might be half the pie. It might be one slice of the pie. But to not show the whole pie, I think Hodge has said to me, that's development malpractice. We have to show the whole pie and allow them to react to it and sit in the uncomfortable space of them trying to negotiate in themselves where they fit.
how do you help people understand, or within the institution, how do you shape those big ideas in a way that you have greater possibility of actually executing on those? Because that was one of the concerns that came up in the survey, is that what if the institution can't deliver on this, which means you have to be thoughtful about the visions that you pursue.
Yeah, we do what's called an outside-in model at the top of the pyramid, where we actually listen to how people want to make an impact at CU Anschutz, and then we connect their values and their passion to our university. We don't chase money. We go to leadership to say, we have a benefactor that we believe could really move the needle in immunotherapy, as an example. Who would you like around the room for us to talk about that, right? And so what happens is, one, when we have that conversation with leadership, we get their buy-in. Yep, that's great. And then we meet with, we usually say 4 or 5 people in a room. And then we create a vision that then our campus leadership approves. So I almost look at our leaders as our first benefactors. They look at it and then they approve it, and then we go to the benefactor. What we try not to do is have vision and ideation sessions with faculty when we don't have a benefactor in play.
Bad idea.
That's where my fear and anxiety happens, because usually what happens is people get very, very excited about the possibility of philanthropy. And then when you don't have a benefactor that's already said that they're open to doing it, you disappoint people, and then your credibility goes down. So we really try to train toward listening and not talking about how great CU Anschutz is, but talking about people's values. And Advancement Resources does this beautifully, where you're giving through CU Anschutz. And so they're giving their values through CU Anschutz, not giving to. And I've been in a few of your trainings, and I think that's a subtle shift. No, it's a subtle shift of word, but it's a huge spiritual shift for the organization.
And mindset.
And mindset.
You're giving through us to improve health, to improve the human condition, to do something important. And we have found with gifts of significance, it is around big ideas that can have significant impact.
And to your point, though, we have now a team that's called a gift implementation team, and they really do start working with the highest of benefactors and faculty to make sure that we execute. Because I do think that whenever we're talking to other organizations, the lack of spending of philanthropic dollars, that's a concern. And we want to make sure that they've trusted us with these resources. We need to be great stewards of those resources. And so we've created some FTE around making sure that we've got progress and spending on those key projects.
It's progress, and it's also what your benefactors are concerned with. It's about possibility of delivering.
Yep.
If you're going to ask people to do something very important, do you have the capability to deliver? Because what adds to development officer anxiety is when researchers or educators want more money and they haven't spent the last gift from the benefactor.
And that's hard. I want to go back to that first question, Mauria, and I'll give you a real life story.
Okay.
I think that there is this whole field in the industry that I think really needs to be researched on. And I think Advancement Resources could play a really important role in this, to be honest, is we are in such an outcome-driven industry. It's one of those places, Mauria, in fundraising and higher ed and medical research that is pretty binary. It's pretty black and white. Did you raise money, yes or no? And because of that, there is a lot of anxiety about hitting goals or closing really, really big gifts of significance. And then with social media, it actually creates even more anxiety, because I'm sure people listening to here, you've had this happen where someone touts a $100 million gift someplace else, and then your leader emails you that and says, why aren't I getting gifts like this? And so it almost becomes like quarterly earnings and another groundbreaking year and another mega gift. And Hodge has said this, we've created a business out of something once beautiful. And so I think I would challenge the industry is how do we focus on process? How do we focus on things that we can control?
Best practice.
Best practice on things you control and let the outcome be the outcome. So I'll give you the story. There was a younger, early career professional, and he was doing the work. He was doing the process. He was doing thank you calls. And he stumbled upon a family that wanted to give $3 million. And this professional has never worked in that type of realm. And we don't pass people up. If he did the work to get this conversation, then we're going to surround this individual with resources and allow that professional to see the gift to its conclusion. And
nothing will destroy morale more within development officers is to establish the relationship, have the conversation. Oh, and that's not at your level. So the vice president has to step in. That's one of the reasons we have so much turnover.
I agree. And he had the anxiety. He knew that I knew about this gift. He knew he didn't want to fail, right? And I looked at him and I said, I want you to know that as the leader of this organization, I've seen how you have handled these benefactors. I've seen how you've listened first. I've seen how you've had hard conversations with faculty that were excited about the gift going to them, but then understanding really their vision for the gift, and you having to pivot internally to really satisfy their passions, right? And I've seen you build this relationship and find your voice in this process. And I told him, to me, that is the value. That is your value. Your value isn't if that gift happened or not. Your value on this team is that you are finding your voice. Your value on this team is that you're listening to the benefactor, right? And you are working beautifully on things that you can control.
Absolutely that. And to get back to that feeling of anxiety and loneliness, what if I don't bring this gift in? We surround, and suggest everyone does, we surround people with a team that helps them get there, whether it's communications or proposal writing, mentor that has done this. And so you're not out there on a
alone.
As you said, binary. Yes.
Yeah, no, it's in our principal gift team, they're incentivized to do that. So they've got to be mentors throughout the year. Right? It's part of their performance evaluation, right? So then what happened is when that gift did happen, his confidence went up. And so I'll give you another story. We had a $10 million gift conversation that we were in the middle of right now, and everybody was really excited. And our development officer did beautiful work, taking someone at $100,000 to having a conversation of a multi-D disciplinary approach to Alzheimer's, similar to what we're doing in the cancer realm, which is transformational.
That's a big idea.
Big idea, right? Nurse navigation and all that mental health for the caregiver at the same time as the patient. It was a really nice big idea. And his company didn't sell at the time at the amount that he thought. And our development officer was devastated. And I told the development officer, you executed beautifully with what you can control. You cannot control when or how much his business was sold. And so in things that you can control, process, making him feel good, he felt horrible not to be able to do 10 million. Now our conversation needs to change to say, listen, this is still an amazing gift at 3 million. Right?
The idea
is still there
in the hearts and minds of that benefactor and your own organization. And that's what makes, we say, it makes, if you approach work in this way, more aspirational for the organization and then more inspirational for the benefactor. We've had so many benefactors that say, well, that's not going to work now, or what would be first dollars in, or what part could I play at $1 million? And the idea lives on.
Beautiful. Thank you. I'm going to shift us over to our next top concern. So this one is anxiety about crafting the perfect pitch for high stakes asks. Sounds familiar, right? Okay. First of all, is a perfect pitch necessary? And what are your thoughts on this?
Well, I'm going to say, because Scott sees himself as being a Broadway singer, that perfect pitch is important. on a stage. But we're not on a stage.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Uh,
Wow.
And
I'm gonna steal that. Jim.
you're gonna steal it because it has to do with your singing voice.
Yep.
You know, so we don't like throwing things at people. We don't like pitching things at people. We like to invite people to take an important walk with us. And we pretty much even guarantee the walk.
Yeah, I mean, I think first of all, the perfect pitch doesn't exist.
Yeah.
And also the
Agreed.
perfect pitch,
It's not generic.
yeah, and
For
the
sure.
perfect pitch is a co-created vision. Where the benefactors see themselves in crafting the pitch, or
Yeah.
we don't use the word pitch, the vision. At the top of the pyramid, it is this co-creation. Here are some sacred cows thinking that need to stop. This is our only shot.
Yeah.
If we don't do it now, it'll never happen again.
Now, that really lowers anxiety for people.
I just don't believe that. And I think I've got 25 years experience
Yeah.
and you a little bit more than that. That's just never true. And then when a gift happens at the amount that you didn't, that it was lower than you wanted, is there a shift that gift is the beginning of the relationship, not the end?
As we
For
say,
some-
phase one.
So for some reason, when someone gives 10 million, has a vision and co-creates and does everything, by the book of co-creating with your benefactor, which we try to do as much as we can, sometimes they're just not there. And sometimes that 5 million would turn into 1 million. But how do you change your attitude that million is the beginning, not the end? Right? And the reason why that's hard to do for organizations is because of what Hodge just talked about, is the tenure of development officers are 24 months. And so what happens is that $1 million is great and is paid over 3 years. What we like to see is how do we earn a 10 million, that's still that same vision, 10 million year 4. That's hard to do when development officers are gone after 2. So do you see what I'm saying? So it's how do you create that longer perspective where this is a journey and that million is a beautiful gift. And we've got to make sure that benefactor feels that joy because it's true. It is a gift of significance. Too many times we have people that are scared to do the leadership to say, I'm sorry, they didn't do 25 million, they're at 5 million, to which I would say they're at 5 million today. What that shows me is we have not earned that 25 million. And we're at 25 million, and we're at 5 million today. And I believe that we could be north of 25 million if we look back 10 years. From where we are now, I could see them going north to that.
And we've had examples.
Yes.
Where foundations, private family foundations buy the whole idea and then to their level, to their ability, vis-a-vis their gifts to others and pledges to others. I mean, that's respectful. That's a respectful approach to the relationship.
Yeah.
Agreed. You mentioned co-creation. So co-creation, does this mean that we have to spend 12 months putting together the perfect proposal that has every detail in it? Or how does co-creation work differently than that? Talk about that.
Yeah. So I think we're big fans of Apple. How do you take something very complex and make it simple, right? And with faculty, and this isn't a criticism of faculty, they're just used to NIH grants or really big grants and 30 or 40 pages. And we really believe that simplicity is the key. And what we have found is, although narratives are important to cast the vision, it's usually pictures and infographics that people can start to see the vision visually is the key. And that could be through a very beautiful graphic designer, or it could be on a napkin when you're drawing with them. We're actually on December 4th of this year, we're having a consultant come and we're going to ideate together around a really big idea on mental health. And I asked her, I said, would you like us to present beautiful presentations, or would you like us to whiteboard with you? Without missing a beat, she said, I want a whiteboard. Great. So let's whiteboard now for 3 hours. And then from that, we'll learn what is interesting to your benefactor. And then we can follow up with some really great ideas based on the conversation, right? And so it's very iterative at that highest level.
And I would say, the reason she answered like that is that it's both the right thing to do. And the beautiful thing to do, but it's also smart, because nothing's more fun than when the potential benefactor or the consultant comes in and starts writing on your whiteboard. That immediately, there have been studies, increases the relationship equity with you and with shared ideas.
And if I could talk to some of the leaders here, it's how you react when gifts don't come in at where you'd hope they would. Your teams are looking at you. They're looking at the nonverbals. They're looking at the reaction.
And they're listening to
And they're listening
yeah.
to the verbals as well. And if you can create a safe environment for people to dream bigger, which means celebrating the setbacks, celebrate the setbacks, fail forward. We actually have a system in place now. When kids don't come where we thought they would, we celebrate the fact that the conversation happened. Because you can control the conversation, you can't control the outcome, right? And so leaders that are listening to this is, how do you create an environment where development officers aren't petrified to tell you bad news? And that's hard, because you've got that same, I'm not going to talk about you, I'm talking about me. I have that same anxiety when I'm the one that has to go to the president or the chancellor to say, hey, they're just not there. But that's our jobs. Our jobs are to manage the expectations of our leaders while also creating a safe environment for our development officers to dream with their benefactors.
Good. Lots of great advice packed into that answer. I'm going to shift to our next top concern, which is pressure to meet ambitious fundraising targets. This is another one that 67% of respondents rated as daunting. And I think everybody is feeling this more and more. The targets just keep getting bigger. I'm guessing you're feeling that too.
Yeah, we've got new leadership on campus and our expectations are rising, and we're very fortunate that we've got a place that people want to invest in our team because of some of the success that we've had. And so I think we're going to be able to have some resources, but that doesn't change the fact that their sites are going a little bit higher. And I think I go back to process and what does the data suggest? And so our data suggests, I think what we're trying to do is move from 225 million to 300 million a year. Our data suggests that we could do that with some additional resources, not an exorbitant amount of resources, but with strategically hired FTE. I believe that we could do that. And so I have this phrase that I always say, should, would, could. And I say this to, it was actually a meeting I had with the Chancellor and the Dean of School of Medicine, is I'm not saying we should raise 300 million. I'm not saying that we would raise 300 million just because we say we will, but I think we could. And with the right resources and with the right spirit, we could. And I think that's the thing is, and I would really challenge organizations to live in could, but at the same time, hope is not a strategy. And I do think that I am not metrics driven. We have very simple metrics at CU Anschutz, but we are data driven. And I spend a lot of time and a lot of resources on data, because without the data, it becomes hope. And nothing hurts morale more than just going higher and higher with no data to support it. And so I think step one is, if things keep on going, and I get it, a president sees their president friend and they're winning a new campaign and their campaign is 1 billion, so they want to do 1.1 billion. I understand that. I think it's really important that you get the data that really supports what they want to do. And then at the same time, still say, we could do this. But in order for us to do this, we need to dream bigger. Everything Hodge was saying, it's not a lack of resources usually. It's a lack of ideas and vision, right? And so in a weird way, as you think about higher goals or higher targets, you need to think of higher aspiration, higher collaboration, higher integration, higher investment in advancement. And it's not just, yeah, I don't, Hodge, anything to add to that?
The reason I'm gonna hypothesize here with you, 67% again, isn't that interesting?
Yeah, 67%,
Yeah.
yeah.
So this is not a dartboard, to your point, rather than having a campaign competition. They raise it, why aren't we getting these gifts, etc. You're setting yourself up for failure if you just say, oh, we can do that. And then an interesting, insidious thing happens. We just say, oh, we're going to double our goals next year. I mean, double, that's 2 times.
So what we'll do is we're going to double the gift conversations. We're going to increase their thresholds of conversations by 2 times.
Yeah,
and this happens overnight.
Overnight.
And so what happens is, and what leaders want to do, and I'm putting me in this, is you want to show all the metrics you can on the worry that you might not hit your goal. And then if you don't hit your goal, you can go to all of the metrics to say, hey, we were doing the right thing, see? And so you have that cover. But what happens is when you create that cover becomes a wet blanket. And it becomes a wet blanket on your team.
Interesting. You have a thought, Jim. I saw something form in your head.
I often have them. That's an idea, but not a good one, Scott tells me. So I think this goes back to the anxiety issues for everyone.
Including the
benefactors. And they don't run businesses or start businesses based on tomorrow our profit margins are going to double. They don't do it. They prepare the groundwork, the framework, the budgeting, the training, the estimations rather than just winging it. And it ultimately protects your leaders. It protects your leaders and it educates them that just like the research on your campus or whatever nonprofit organization, we follow best practices and we will be completely transparent with co-creating our goals and agreeing to them, and never surprising when that gift doesn't come in as expected.
Yeah, and we say for us to hit this goal, these 4 conversations need to happen. And in my 10 years being here in this role, when 3 of those 4 don't happen and we don't hit goal, there's a complete understanding. It's not even, they're just like, this is what you said at the beginning of the year. That's what your data said. And it happened. If those 3 gifts came in, you would have hit goal, right? And so getting that data driven, I think he's right. There's a sophistication there and a credibility with leadership that they get buy-in as well.
Yeah, because they don't want to be, they want to be ambitious, but they don't want to be embarrassed with this. And so we're doing some mentoring up the hierarchy in our organizations because they don't want to fail.
Yeah. I think the
So the data piece and is really using data, using education to practice no surprise philanthropy, to use one of the terms I learned from you.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about no surprise philanthropy, right? So, I mean, I think, wonder if the obstacle is the way. As people say, fear and anxiety is what's getting in the way. Wonder if our job is to reduce, as development professional, wonder if our job is to reduce the anxiety and fear for our campus leaders, our faculty, and our benefactors. Wonder if that became the call. So let people listening here and development officers listening here, is it true that you want to have your benefactor have a great experience? Yes. Is it true that you want your faculty and leaders to have a great experience? Yes. And so Hodge and I are very, very committed to this idea of no surprise philanthropy. And how we do that is through the work of Brené Brown. This whole idea of vulnerability. So I'll give you concrete examples of what we mean. We can do all of this great cultivation with these high-level benefactors. But at the end of the day, if the benefactor doesn't know the amount or the area before their visit with the faculty, we believe that our team has failed. And so how we do that is in almost every instance, we have pre-meetings with the benefactor without faculty. And we say something like this. As Dr. Smith is very excited about this conversation we're going to have with you next week, prior conversations, you were open to us dreaming bigger. I want you to know we did. And this conversation is, we want to make sure that that's okay. And Dr. Smith was thinking about the biobank and what that would take to make sure that we have a bio break for every single specialty in our cancer center. And we believe that's a $21.3 million vision. To which this benefactor said, are you asking us for $21.3 million? And we're saying, no, but we're just saying that's what it is. And we don't have many people. And that can really do that type of gift. We know what you're capable of. And so, but that's why we're having this conversation. If this is something that you believe is not even possible, it's good for us to have this conversation now than in front of our faculty.
Because we want to make it
a good experience for you. And because we care about you. Like it, and I mean this, Mauria, we've done this 100 times. And I would say 100 out of 100 times, the benefactors say, thank you. You're giving us a lot to think about. And I didn't really want to be surprised. And so thank you. And so I think that, you know, your first step is to get permission to dream big. Once you get the permission to dream big and you do an ideation, let's just say they gave $5 million and the vision is 35 million. That's a big jump, right? And so how do you make that jump feel okay for the benefactor? And these initial conversations about the amount and the vision and getting their feedback, because then what happens is once the faculty know the conversation kind of already happened, then their confidence goes up, their anxiety goes down, and they're more aspirational because in their mind, the hard work of the ask has been done, and now it's their job to inspire.
And in a way, it's Scott was talking about in this way, many of the things we do mentor leaders, but this is a form of mentoring in benefactors in a sense. Then they realize, well, it's $21.3 million to significantly move the needle on esophageal cancer or whatever the project or program is. Well, then they realize context and scale around that big idea. And it value seeds in their mind that someday I could do that. And when I sell my businesses, and maybe in a combination outright estate gifts, it plants an important idea.
And also, I want to be clear for those listening that this is around transformational giving. Early career development officers, moving someone from 1,000 to 10,000 or 5,000, 25,000, this works too. Hey, I want you to know that you're thinking a little bit bigger on your scholarship. You've been given $5,000 and you know, that's a fourth of a scholarship. And would you be open to doing a full scholarship at 25,000? Are they asking for 25,000? That's really their hope, but that's why we're having this conversation. I want to make sure that's okay.
And we can't tell you how many times donors have said, well, you know, I could do a half.
I could do that, right?
Doubles.
Right. And so it's just not just these big gifts. It's just, it goes back to understanding that these people are human beings.
Yeah.
And it's about them. It's about you making sure, regardless of the gift amount, that they feel good about their giving. And you want to make sure that what the faculty and the university wants them to do is matching where they are.
And I think that's really important because we're here for philanthropy writ large to demonstrate how we can maximize joy and meaning in philanthropy. And that's very compelling for benefactors. And it's a combination of Brené Brown. Brené Brown weaves vulnerability and the outcome. Yeah. The outcome is higher trust, and authenticity.
It's true. It's so easy to understand, very difficult to do.
Yeah.
It's vulnerability, authenticity, and the role of shame when you fail. It's that trifecta that she
And
talks
don't
about all the time.
Please don't forget the anxiety of the benefactor, even if
Oh.
they're experienced,
Yeah.
they are experienced philanthropists, I can tell you. But if they have no idea, to Scott's point, the amount, or maybe even the project, is it capital? Is it, I mean,
Is
they
it
have no
endowment?
idea.
Is it current use?
And they go out to the best bakery in town and they buy the pastries and the coffee's brewing and they sit out and they're saying, what do you think's gonna happen here? Their anxiety is up. When you're vulnerable and when you're authentic, and when do you tell them? We tell donors, we practice no surprise.
We say that.
And we say it, no shock and awe
We just say
at
it.
the breakfast table.
We've been in meetings where these type of meetings don't go well.
Oh,
And we
believe-
want to make sure that this meeting goes well with you for factory next week. So then the question, okay, this all sounds great, this process versus outcome, but how do you operationalize that? Okay, so how do you operationalize that? And so this is what we've done. And we're not saying that this is something that everybody has done, but we have a team goal. Right, our team goal this year is 225 million. So this idea that CU Anschutz doesn't have dollar goals, it's just not true. We do. It is $225 million. And we get that through our pipeline and what we're doing. And that's for a different talk about how we get to that target. However, our individual development officers do not have dollar goals. And because I don't believe that people can make people give, they can't make people give at a certain amount. And so what we do is we look at the process, the activity that people can control, and that's having gift conversations, right? There's really two things after doing this for 10 years that I've changed my philosophy on it. At first, we did it because we wanted people to focus on things they can control, and that's true. The second thing that happened over time that I didn't realize was going to happen was, if your goal, Mauria, is $1.5 million as a development officer, and you know Hodge can do 1.5 million, you know it, like, you know, it's a slam dunk and he can do it, right? And it's 3 months till your end of year, right? But inspired in the right way, in a co-created way, Hodge could give 10 million, but we incentivize that 1.5. So a 1.5 yes is measured the same as a 10 million no on my team. It is the conversation that happens. And then what happens is our team then has more confidence in having these larger conversations because they're getting measured on that
Conversation.
not the conversation, not the outcome. And sometimes our annual development officer goals, they become ceilings for the university. And so we just removed them. And it has really opened up larger, more meaningful conversations than I've got to hit my goal. I've got to hit my goal.
Yeah.
I've got to hit my goal.
And also as responsible leaders, when you set the 1.5 million, I worked with principal gift officers for decades. And actually some principal gift officers would say in August or September, if you're on a calendar year, well, I already have my 1.5 million, so
I'm done.
I'm not going to make any more
More
requests or
because I got
invitations
next
or
year
asks,
to worry about.
because I'm worried about
Yeah.
next year. Well, we don't have that.
We don't have that. It's
So-
about, we celebrate it. Oh my gosh, great job with that gift.
Yeah.
Now let's focus on your 19 other conversations that we're
Yeah.
measuring.
Nice.
And then you go a step wrong. Okay.
All right, I'm going to move to our next top concern, which is unease about satisfying donor expectations and stewarding the gift. And so this one, we had 60% of respondents who rated it as daunting. I believe it was 60%
Got it.
on this one. I should look at that and make sure, because I feel like it maybe was 67. Nope, I'm right. It was 60%
Yeah.
on this
Isn't
one.
that amazing? But I have a question for you, Mauria. Just how many anxieties do you have on the list?
I have a number of anxieties here. I'm only going to talk to you about the top 6, I think.
Okay, great. Great. Thank you. Go ahead.
So I don't even know where to begin on this one. I believe that if you want to raise more money as an organization, you need to invest in stewardship first and development officers and frontline fundraising.
And you did?
Second, I think that stewarding the people that already like you and love you will raise so much more money than going out and doing proposals and things like that. And so I do, in my heart of hearts, believe that really strong impact reports for your most generous and executing on those plans will raise more money. So however you do it, whether it's the advancement, and this is a question that we're having as a team, this gift implementation, whether it's on the advancement team or it's a partnership with the university and strategic initiatives or whatever, there needs to be someone or a team of folks that are waking up every day trying to figure out how are we executing on our top gift conversations. However you want to fund that, because if you fund that well and show the impact, you're going to raise much more money. It will happen.
And advancement resources, and I may say other organizations that practice research-based or investigate research-based philanthropy, it comes out over and over. The reason people stop making major gifts is they feel removed from the impact. What Scott's saying. That's research has been clear for 30, 40 years. You work hard for your resources. You make a philanthropic investment and you never hear anything. Stewardship becomes what you always say. It really becomes a part of the gift conversation.
It is. And so here's the mind shift and the paradigm shift for the industry is why wouldn't we think that stewardship teams are an income revenue producing part of the team? What happens is they think that they're not.
Yeah.
And so I think when you are requesting budget, of course, it makes logical sense for people that are removed from the industry that if you hire more frontline fundraisers, you're going to raise more money. That's what makes sense to them. I would challenge organizations to say, let's take a step back here. If I have 5 FTE, I would rather hire 3 strong stewardship team members and 2 frontline fundraisers.
Exactly.
Because you're going to raise more money long term. And so that shift of stewardship being income revenue producing parts of your team is not trivial.
I completely agree with you. I think hiring another fundraiser might get you more first-time gifts,
Mike,
but it's not going to get you those elevated gifts that come from a deeper relationship, and that
Correct.
can come through stewardship.
Exactly. And I've learned, Scott and I have learned that when the switch is pulled, we're going to double our goals. So we're going to double our number of fundraisers. What happens is, I want to say this in our language, what happens is new development officers come in, and because the research hasn't been done and the data hasn't been collected, they don't have rich, dense lists, or they take from your present development officers. This is a morale buster.
I want to hire more principal. I want more principal gifts. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hire principal gift officers, but the portfolios aren't there.
Yeah.
And so what happens is the principal gift officer has 30 years experience, comes into organizations, and they need to do cold calling to be able to do that, which is really an assistant development director. So they don't have the portfolios for the PGOs. So for
the relationships.
relationship. So then they leave. They're not set up for success. So for us, we're really growing our team where we may hire a director of development at mid-level, but we are pretty much, because our development officers don't leave, we're going to be hiring the assistant development directors and just growing them.
Yeah.
If we have a principal gift officer leave, we may do a principal gift officer, but I don't know. I think we would probably,
rare.
I don't know if we would.
You'd be more likely to elevate someone who's already proven
If I
themselves.
elevate someone, or, because I remember being a development officer at Mayo and I saw the list of our chair and their worst benefactor, potential benefactor would have been my best. Right. And so And so
And
I
they
would have,
don't get to.
and I would have given that person so much more love and attention than our chair. And it's not a criticism of our chair, because I'm in that spot now.
In a way, it
Because
is.
but my calendar, I can't give the attention that benefactors deserve. And so how do you empower your team to have those conversations? Yeah, so I don't have really assigns. I have one assign, but beyond that, I pretty much empower the team to do the really heavy lifting on the big kid
And
process.
you join
I join as second chair.
strategically
chair.
as second.
Yeah.
Yep.
Scott would only show up in a discussion with a benefactor that he doesn't know if it's beneficial for the benefactor. In other words, the benefactor
Yeah.
expects
Yeah, I'm happy to do
the
that, but
vice
it's not.
chair or the vice president.
And let's be honest,
be at the-
that's happened like
Rare.
Let's be honest,
Because
I'm not that important.
they want to talk to the people who are
Yeah.
going to deliver.
Yeah.
And that they work with, that you become your benefactor's human face on a very complex organization.
Yep.
And that's why we have development officers that could go have conversations at 3 million, regardless of levels that they work with, because it grows the equity with the benefactor as well. This is my person. I've had more than once where leaders sweep in.
Mm.
And then the benefactor says, where's Jim, or where's Scott, or
And-
where's Mauria? That's my person.
But in the time that we have left, Mauria, I do want to say one thing. One thing that Hodge has always said, words matter. Words make worlds, right? And with our team, he has said, we are here to reduce the fear and anxiety. He does not say eliminate.
Yeah.
Right? Because fear is maybe a place where that's where you need to go. Right?
That's interesting.
And so if the goal is to eliminate the fear and anxiety, that's an admirable goal. Sometimes though, the fear and anxiety is there as a push to have you go. And so we are believers.
Performers will tell you similar things.
Yes.
We haven't talked about this.
So we say the word reduce, right? And how you react to that fear and anxiety, right? Does it make you eager
Or
or
anxious, yeah.
eager, anxious, right? And so if your goal is to eliminate that, I'm not sure that's a worthwhile goal. I think it is reducing it in effect. And then once the outcome happens, looking back and being proud of the fact that you went in spite of your fear. And that's where the growth is.
Completely agree. When you look at the research on cognitive growth, it doesn't happen when you're comfortable. It happens
No,
when you're
no.
challenged to step outside of your comfort zone
no.
and face something that doesn't feel quite as comfortable. It's through that
That
we
is
actually get growth.
so
Yes.
right, Mauria. And what we
Yes.
sometimes ask people to do, when you support them in a team approach, when you reduce that kind of anxiety, we do ask them to take a half step, go to the boundary of your comfort zone and take a half step. And you know, a lot of half steps, it increases
Over time.
over time, it increases your confidence, your sense of self, your grounding in the process. And when you focus on process, we've said this all the time, guess what? The outcomes,
It just
they're
happens.
lagging indicators. And you all of a sudden, you're hitting reasonable, rational, data-driven goals. And guess what? Everybody feels good.
And what happened, and Hodge does this so much with with development officers, and some of them, they're perfectionists. And he has a
Oh,
great
yeah.
analogy. It's like they want to make sure that all the windows are locked and the garage is done and the front door is locked.
They drive
then-
around the
and then they
block
drive
and
around
sit
the
there.
block,
I might be
and then-
guilty of this.
Right, yeah, that's right, yeah.
You
We're
might
gonna
have
do
to
this,
admit that.
and then we're all gonna do this, and then we're gonna do this, and then we're ready, and then we're gonna do this, and then we're gonna, it's not the right time, and it's not, and he just looks at him and says, what's the fear?
Yeah.
Why not have the conversation? And so if you hear anything from us, is just have the conversation. Have an aspirational conversation. If you worry about what type of gift is going to come from that conversation, and that's what you're being measured on, the benefactor is going to feel it.
Oh, yeah.
They're going to feel it. But if you're focusing on a great conversation, an aspirational conversation, the benefactor will feel it. We are hardwired to be inspired. We are hardwired to be inspired as humans, right? People listening to this, you are in philanthropy because you want to make a difference in the world. Benefactors want to make a difference in the world. We have the same goal. So why create this carnage toward that same goal? Why don't we understand how they want to change the world? And then how can we have conversations with them on through your organizations? That's how they can change the world. If you have that mentality, it'll be a better experience for the benefactor, a better experience for the faculty. And by the way, you will raise more money.
Amen, bro. Amen.
That was beautiful. I have one more concern that I want to share with you in our last couple of minutes, just to see what your thoughts are in this one. The next top concern is worry about navigating complex legal and financial considerations. We had 47% of respondents rated this one as daunting. And I'm just curious what your advice would be on this. How do you navigate those? Who do you get involved when?
Yeah. So some organizations don't have plan giving professionals, but the ethos of that question is, I don't believe that's our role. Giving tax advice, financial advice, vehicles, and things like that. I think what our role is to show the type of vehicles, whether it's charitable ordained trusts, charitable relief trusts, charitable gift annuities, estate planning. We can talk about what other people do, and we can talk to their financial advisor with them. But in terms of us navigating their financial situation, I think that's mission creep. I'm not sure that's in our wheelhouse. I think it's their financial advisor's wheelhouse, but we can partner with them and to show this is what other people have done.
That's exactly right.
And we're not sure this might make sense for you, but this is what other people have done.
That is our obligation. Say, here's what we've seen.
This is what we've seen.
We've seen successful gifts orchestrated or structured in a certain way. So we teach a lot for another day, the unquestions. So you're not asking direct questions, but you're saying, well, this is what we've seen other people do that have similar aspirations or passions.
Yep. And a lot of clients at Advancement Resources, they're pretty complex. So they'll have these teams. So here's an analogous to this. And so think about a house. And what development officers and frontline fundraisers need to know is how to open the front door to a complex plan giving conversation. You're opening the front door. That's all you're doing. Then you've got a team behind you that's showing the different rooms of the complex giving vehicles within that house.
I see what you did there.
Right? So what you're doing is, so really when we're training our frontline fundraisers, you don't need to understand all the rooms. You just need to know how to open the door to the house to allow your team to explain the different rooms within the house. Does that make sense, Mauria?
It does, and you just have to make sure that you have the right team members for the rooms that the benefactor or the donor is interested in learning more about.
Development professionals at this level do have to know what's behind door number 1 and door number 2.
Whether it's a real estate transaction, a CRUD or a CLAT, whatever you want to do, those are different rooms. And
you have to
understand.
You have to understand. Scott's right on this one. You have to understand conceptually
what the house
but
is.
To keep up, try to keep up with tax law changes.
No.
Because you don't want to give the wrong information.
And then you go right back to Brough.
Yeah.
This really isn't, this is what some people have done, not our skill set. This is something for your financial advisor for you to discuss.
Tax laws have changed.
Tax laws have changed. Happy to have our team member meet with your financial advisor to make sure that we can create something that feels good to you and feels good for the university.
Beautiful. That was a great answer. I thought that was a lot of fun too. Well, I'm so appreciative. Thank you for giving me and us really the gift of your time and your expertise today. I really appreciate it. I know you probably have things coming up, so I want to be respectful because I did just hit the hour mark, but I really appreciate you taking some time to talk through these. And I'm excited about what we might be able to do.